Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Getting back to work on the Cobra in this video. Last video, I was able to get the transmission torn down and do a walkthrough of, kind of general operations and what I found when I had it apart. This video is going to be concentrating on the case of the transmission for now, as I need to see if I'm going to be able to reuse it or replace it. If you've been following along, the fill plug has been stripped out and frozen in place since I got this car. So I need to see if I can get that plug removed without cracking or damaging the case. If so, I can just rebuild the existing transmission I have. If I can't get it out or the case gets damaged, then it looks like I'm gonna need to buy a new transmission. So that being said, I am gonna get the camera turned around and get to work on seeing if I can get this plug out. So here is the problem. It is the fill plug here. The drain plug worked fine. I was able to pull this out and drain it without an issue. But when I got the car, I went to change the fluid and realized that this was completely stripped out and ended up just filling it back up through the reverse sensor, which is about the same height. It's pretty close. And I figured it would do the job. So it was completely rounded out, so you can't get, can't use the normal ratchet end that you would. I tried using some oversized things. I tried welding a bolt in there. The weld didn't stick. So I'm kind of like back to square one on what I'm going to try and do. I did soak this with penetrating oil last night to see if, that'll help bite in. And what my thought is I maybe put a hex bit that's the right size in my drill and just with all my might push in, because there is ever so slightly a little bit of hex down in there. Try and push as much pressure as possible and just do quick taps at it, kind of like an impact, to see if I can get it to spin out. So wish me luck. I'm gonna mess with this and see what happens. Well, that was no bueno. As you can see, there's really not much to bite into, and I hammered that thing in as hard as I could and did my best to keep pressure down on it while using a breaker bar, and nope, still nothing. It just still spun back out. So next on my list is to start drilling a hole through the center of this plug and just start slowly drilling it out. I'm thinking if I got a big enough hole in it, I could tap it, put a bolt through it, and then use the bolt to pull it out from the other side, or tap it from the other side and reverse the bolt out of it. I got an idea of how I'm going to do it. I think I have some easy outs as well, but those normally snap. So I'm going to start seeing if I can drill this thing and then come up with something and let you know once I have a better idea. All right, update time. You can see I drilled a hole in there. It was basically a 1/4 inch, just over with, I think it was I can't remember, something 64th bit, because I then tapped it to use this bolt here. And my thought was, if I tap it this way, thread the bolt in from the inside and just try and turn the bolt, it should back this out. This thing must be either cross-threaded or something in there, because you can see it started rounding this bolt out from all the torque of me trying to pull it. So it looks like I am kind of at the last ditch effort of just drilling this old plug out, which is not going to be fun. So I got some step bits and whatnot, and I am going to start attempting to drill it and see where that goes. Oh yeah, we have victory. So I was able to drill it out, actually using stepper bits. This is the last bit I was using. I'm not sure what the exact size is on it, but that pretty much all the way through. And once I got all the way through, it had exposed the old threads, so it did chew up all the little bits of the old plug. And then thankfully I do have a tap, which is a 1/2 inch, I believe, off the top of my head, but ran this down to clean it out. Yeah, 1/2 inch. Ran that down, cleaned it out, and then I did have another drain plug laying around, put that in there, and it went in and got tight, so we are good to go. The case has been salvaged. That makes me a very happy person. And it looks like I am going to be ordering gears to upgrade the existing case. Real quick, I was just digging through the filings that were inside the case, and yep, here is what's left of that plug. It must have just pushed it through as I was drilling, and I got to the right size. So yep, that was really nice that this came out, and all the threads were pretty much intact and didn't need to redo any much, or didn't need to redo any work. So since I did have to do that drill work, I wiped out, a lot of the debris that was in here, but you can see there's still quite a bit. So what I'm gonna do is, I wasn't originally planning on doing it, but I'm gonna pull out the rod for fifth and reverse, get that out of the way, and then pull out the reverse idler gear. So that's out of the way as well. I'm gonna leave this linkage in here just because it really doesn't need to come out. It'll still be okay in place, but it just gives me a little more access and room to clean things out, make sure this gear is cleaned out. There's nothing in there or anything that, as far as metal shavings from drilling out that plug that was stuck in place. So first thing is the rod for fifth and reverse. And that's pretty straightforward. You just basically have to twist and walk it out of the linkage there and then slide it back. It may bind a little bit in the shaft here that it goes through in the spring. Just do a little wiggling and it should come right out. All it does is just sit in the end of the housing here. There's nothing retaining it. So it should slide out with just a little bit of finesse. And like I said, a little bit of finesse and a little twisting, bar came out. As you can see, like I said, this end just seats in the case. The end with the hole through it is where the gear fork goes on for fifth and reverse. So that's done, and like I said, the spring, it did pop off the little tab that it sits on. It's not the end of the world. I'm gonna leave it there in place and not gonna worry about getting it out of there. So next on the list is going to be the reverse idler gear. Gonna need to use that same punch that I used on the shift mechanism when I started tearing this apart, as well as the fork for fifth and reverse. I believe it is a 3/16 off the top of my head. So you're gonna need to punch out that roll pin that you can see there in the end of the shaft. And then once you do that, you can slide the shaft out of the case. So I'm gonna go ahead, grab my punch and my hammer and get to work on that. All right, and there the roll pin is out. Again, yeah, it was a 3/16. So all you need to do is just go ahead and push the shaft through and it'll start coming out the end of the case right here. There is an O-ring on there that kind of retains things, so that might fight you a little bit. But yeah, just go ahead, wiggle a little bit, and you should be able to get it all the way out, and then the gear will just fall down into the bottom of the case. And there you have it. There is the shaft, the gear, the O-ring I was talking about, and the fork that goes onto that gear came out as well with the spring, obviously, since it's no longer had the gear holding it in place. So that will just leave you with a case with this arm on the side, which again, I'm fine with this arm sitting here. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not in the, that shouldn't be in the way as much. But now I have a lot more access to clean all this debris and gunk that's under, that was under that at the bottom, and make sure this thing is nice and clean and ready for the reinstallation once I have all of my parts and everything. So that is going to be that. The last thing that I have on the list as far as the case goes is I do need to get this rear bearing out. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the case, or the bearing race out / plug. So I'm gonna get the case situated, and then I'll walk you through how I'm gonna remove that. All right, so as far as moving this race, and you can see I've actually already started knocking it out just to show you that this does work. A lot of the guides that you'll see online say you need to press it out, but if you do use a press on it, the one thing you have to worry about is collapsing the case or cracking the case. You need to support it from underneath here, because if you put all that pressure on this and it's bound in place a little bit, it's going to put forward pressure down on this, and it can crack the aluminum if you're not careful. So what I am using is a punch. Well, it's actually just a piece of steel or iron steel that I have, and a hammer, and just lightly working my way around, tapping it down. Hit it with like a good hit, going around the edges inside, obviously the lip of the aluminum, and it will slowly work its way down. That way you're not using a hydraulic press and potentially cracking the case. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep hammering on this and get it knocked out. And there you have it. This is the countershaft end race that also acts as the plug in the front of the case. You can see it's got a little O-ring on it that seals oil in. And yeah, this is the outer part that you would see sticking through. So that is out. And with that is pretty much as far as I'm gonna be going on the disassembly of this case. That's really everything. I'm just leaving this lever in. You really don't need to take this out. I may try and get it out just because whoever put it in previously has all kinds of goop all over it. So maybe just try and clean it up. Don't need to take out the backup light switch. You may want to, just because it's sticking out and maybe in the way for your installation. of the transmission. For me, I really don't care. I don't have backup lights on my Cobra, and this is more of a plug in the hole or in the side of the case than anything else. So I'm just gonna leave it be. It's not hurting anything. So the steps with this next, which will probably be the next video, is just gonna be to clean it all up. It's now gonna be getting all the parts for doing the rebuild. I have already ordered a master rebuild kit. I got that a full set. It's got the carbon fiber synchros and all the parts that you need, new bearings and all the little miscellaneous parts. I think I got it from a website called The Gearbox off the top of my head. With that, I did also order the caged needle bearings for first, second, and third. Those don't come in a lot of the master sets anymore. It depends on who's selling it and where you find it, because they're a little bit more of a difficult commodity to come by, but they will sell them separately from the Gearbox. So those are on the way. The other thing is I am planning on changing this to a 295 gear set from the factory 335 first gear set. So I am going to be ordering a new set. I'm still up in the air on what I want to go with, because there's multiple options out there as far as like horsepower ratings. Well, I mean, there seems to be two main ones. One's going to be like a 400 horse set. One is like a 450 horse set that's got like thicker gears. So I'm on the fence. Do I want to go with the higher horsepower but a little bit more weight with a thicker gear? Or do I want to stick with the 400 horse, keep the weight down with like more of a stock size gear, but it's still like better quality materials according to the vendors? But yeah, I'll keep the weight down, because I mean, I'm dealing with a much lighter weight car than a Mustang. I've got a 373 rear end, so that's less shock loading. So between that, the weight, it's less load that the transmission is going to see overall. So yes, you're going to have the input of the power from the engine, but there's still less load for the vehicle to get moving when that power hits. So I'm sure if you understand what I'm saying. So I'm thinking I can probably stick with the 400 horse set, and less weight, and also significantly less cost. I think it's about $300 cheaper if I go with that set. So up in the air, not sure which one I'm going to order. I'm kind of leaning towards the less weight, lower power rated one, just because I think it'll be fine for my application. Also with that, I did order a new fifth gear set, because with the factory 335 fifth gears, you are going to be running basically a 1-to-1 ratio if you put those on a 295 gear set. So it's really like having two fourth gears. So I ordered, I believe it's a 25/51 match set, which, well, I bought them individually, but that's what the set is. And that was what came with the original Z boxes that had the 295s. That set will give you a 0.63 final drive ratio, whereas the factory one with the 335s was like a 0.68. So it'll actually drop my revs by about 100 RPM at 75 miles an hour based on a calculator I used. Whereas a lot of the aftermarket sets, the fifth gear they sell is like a 0.80. And that would raise my RPM at 75 from where I was now, like another 400 RPM. So it would be 500 higher than running the 0.63. So I'm going with that because I want to keep this a drivable highway car as far as fifth gear goes, and not have my eardrums blown out when I'm up against concrete walls on the highway. So that's where I'm going to end this one. It's a good stopping point. I need to get the parts in and everything to continue on with the transmission. Not sure if I'll be picking up with the transmission on the next video with this car, or maybe just get back under the car, start taking the clutch out, checking out the rear of the engine, things like that, because I'm going to need to start ordering parts for all of the engine work that I need to do as well. A bunch of gaskets and bits and pieces that I'm going to be replacing to fix some leaks and whatnot. So that being said, if you like what you're seeing, you want to follow along, want to see how things turn out, please hit like. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I do review them and I will reply. I do have a second channel related to firearms. If that's something that interests you, there is a link in the description of this video. I also have a Rumble channel as well. There's a link in the description as well. That being said, thank you very much for watching and have a great day.